Hello, this is an assessment of a Steinway Model A grand piano that's about 6'2" long, made in 1924, and it's just coming to stock, so assessing what sort of work might need doing on it and also trying to appreciate the piano. Also trying to double up this video with the assessment sheet we have here, and the idea is to try to encourage you and help you to assess your own piano. This is the one that we fill in, and I filled it on for this piano already, but just going to hold this steady for a minute so that you can have a look at it and maybe copy it and use it yourself, especially if you want to sell a piano to us or would like a piano restored. It's really helpful if we can get as much information about it from you as possible. Obviously, I'm not expecting you to fill it all in, but if you can manage some of it, that'd be really helpful. I believe this is a particularly fine piano. It's got a sostenuto pedal, as you can see, the third middle pedal there. Not all Steinways of 1924 would have that. The ivory key is in exceptional condition. There's a couple that have come off and been stuck back on here, which we'll just check and try to improve the little ridge that occurs there, and also tap them all to make sure none of the others are likely to come off. Now, looking at the casework, it's had that brush stroke. I've mentioned this on a previous video, that if you repolish this, you have a beautiful grain, rosewood grain coming out. So I'm not quite sure why they decided to go for this finish, but it was very common. And as you can see, all the way around, it has that brushed stroke, which will completely disappear if we repolish the piano. But if you want to have a less expensive Steinway, then this case isn't in too bad condition, really. Looking around the back again, you've got some blemishes on it, as you can see. We can probably disguise them to a certain extent, though we would love to repolish this piano if you are interested in us doing so. We just had a similar one just come in that we did repolish, and we've made a video of that, so I'll try and remember to put a link for that. There's definitely some damage on the top here, so it's probably the case is one of the worst aspects of the piano. There's no fade line there, which is encouraging, so it's been kept open and closed. It's been used quite extensively, as we're going to see in a minute. Now, the frame and the strings are in very good condition. The tuning pins are very tight, which is really important, so trying to make a decision what to do. Sometimes we'd fully restore one of these pianos, but this is in original condition with the original tone, and it's a shame to lose that. There is actually a string missing here, which we'll replace immediately so that it stretches before it's sold and goes to a client. And it's a shame it's missing, because it's the same string that goes down and back up again. So if you're not familiar with this, you can actually unwind the coil a bit, take the string down, take it up on the other side on the other tuning pin here, and use the same string, which saves having to replace it and means it'll match better the originals. Now, if you look here, you can see the one that was missing here, and say it goes down and back up again. So the same string is for two of the three strings on the note, so it could be used, and much better than replacing it, really. If you are assessing your own piano, it's worth going underneath. Just look at the soundboard. In this case, is in perfect condition, which is very encouraging. Another reason for not fully restoring the piano. If we can manage to keep the original, that's a nicer sound normally. Full restoration never quite get exactly the tone of the bass strings, which in this case are really exceptional. So looking underneath, just checking it for any woodworm or anything else that might be wrong with it, but in this case it's a clean bill of health. Now, you may not be confident about taking the action out of your piano, which is understandable if it's a grand piano particularly, or an upright for that matter, but you can actually on Steinways take the key slip up here. You can just lift it off, and we can put that down on the floor and look at the felts, and you can see if there's any moth in them. In this case there's no moth whatsoever. It's very common for pianos to get moth in them, but in this case it's got a clean bill of health. Now, if you are going to attempt to take the action out of your piano, make sure the hammers are down, and if you can see the hammers there, then pushing the keys. If any of them are up, then you pull the action out, then it could easily snap, and very likely to snap the hammers. Don't put your finger over the key here if you're pulling the action out. It's not something I want to recommend you to do on your own. It's much better to have a technician, but I know that some viewers do find that their technicians are few and far between. So to make sure your fingers are not on the keys when you pull the action out. This piano has had a reasonable amount of use, and you can see there's a bit of sideways play here, so we'll replace probably that side at least of the key bushings here, and we can look at the hammers and see that they're extremely worn. As you can see there, that's extremely worn. Original hammers, that's yellow on this age of Steinway, yellow undercovering, but very, very worn. Look at how much hammer's hitting the string, and that's making the tone some much less distinct than it should be. And in the case of this, there's a lot of variety of tone. On this one here, which is an E, there's a very sharp sound, and others have a mellower sound. So that's something we would definitely do. If you wanted to buy the piano without that being done, it is possible. It's obviously less work for us, but I don't at all recommend that, and I think we'd just discourage you from doing so. These hammers need changing. You can see the hammers resting on this rail here. That means that it's been played a lot, not regulated, and this would be very worn. So in fact, if we change the rollers, you'll find that that automatically lifts the hammer up, because the roller will be slightly thicker. And at the moment, the blow distance is about 54. It should be 47 millimeters. I won't say any more than we'll have a look at the assessment sheet in a minute, and you'll see that written on there. The back checks are worn, but they, from experience, will carry on for a long time. We would probably change those given the opportunity. You just have to unscrew them and screw another one on. The hammers are nice and, well, they are very free, but in fact they're too free. Some of the hinges here are loose. If I wobble the hammers from side to side, you can see there's some looseness in them. So that often makes a clicking noise, and also makes it too free, really. It's not controllable. So we would change, as we mentioned many times, hammers, shanks and hammers, shanks, hinges and the rollers here, the whole lot, and that will really transform the piano. With new hammers we can then voice them and get the sound we want. These are very, very soft as well. I can get my nail into those, so definitely want to change the hammers. So if you're assessing your own piano, I recommend starting in the middle here with the main sort of singing area, and make sure it still sings. If it doesn't, then it could be that the down bearing needs to be increased, and that's so common. In this case, there's a very pleasant tone. Well, the hammers are meaning it's not as pleasant as it should be, but the underlying tone, it carries across the soundboard when listening to see if the sound's carrying. Because a bit thinner with that string missing, and a beautiful tenor. And then listen to the break point. Don't want too much contrast there, slightly out of tune. And noted a really rich sound in the bass, which is very encouraging, just what you hope for in a Model A Steinway. So once that's got new hammers on, it'll sound very fine piano indeed. Looking forward to that. Here's the assessment sheet filled in. I actually made this assessment originally on the 14th of January before I went to Houston, where my son's just starting up as a piano dealer, and it was a busman's holiday. Actually, I was working together with him, which was very interesting. I learnt a lot. So this video has just been made as we've come back. And Steinway Model A, that's the serial number of the year. The colour of wood is not correct, mahogany. It should be rosewood. Sorry about that. And it's got ivory key tops, and that's the measurements of the piano. So if you can fill in, if you're interested in trying to assess your piano, also if you want it restored, then it's really helpful to get as much of this information as possible. Legroom is important. Tall people need a lot of legroom. 59.5, 60 to 60.5 is more preferable, but the pedals are extremely low, so that's a redeeming factor. If you've got very, very low pedals, it means you can raise the casters up. So if you look at the pedals here, there are 4, which is incredibly low, which is very good. It's very operable, but you could raise the casters up with caster cups by at least an inch, and then you're going to have pedals won't be too high. 7 centimeters is sort of maximum height that we like, and the legroom will go up to, well, about 61, which would be excellent. 62 for tall people, that'll be very useful. Tuning pins are tight, so that's an important thing to find out if we want to fully restore the piano or not, which we often do. but it's obviously very expensive. And if we've got the original strings and they're in good condition, then we obviously replace the one that's missing straight away. And no moth or woodworm, and so the hammers are incredibly worn, and definitely change hammers, shanks and rollers on this piano. It'll be the major thing to do that's going to improve it. As I say, we could do everything to the piano, but makes it hugely expensive, and we'll lose some of its original tone, from my experience. If you're a piano restorer, you'd like to make your own comments on that. New bass strings aren't that much different from old ones, and the old ones have this rich tone if you listen to the notes here. Well, I think you'll probably be able to get as good as that with new strings, but it won't really improve it. And lastly, if you can weigh off your keys as well, it's really helpful. You may not have piano weights to do it with, but you can find the right coins, the right size of coins, which gives you the right weight. 50 grams in the centre, 50 to 54, and in the bass, sort of 52 to 56 really, and then top treble 48, 47 to 52. Actually in the middle here you might want to go slightly lighter, 48, 47. Depends on what sort of touch you want really. It's not just down weight that counts, but I haven't got time to go into great detail on that. It's future videos will try and talk about different aspects and try and help you to assess your own piano. Well, obviously we're selling this piano, so I can assure you it's a very fine instrument indeed. Really encouraged to get it into stock. Just want to compare it with some other pianos in stock. Now the hammers are really letting it down a lot. So around there it doesn't sing like it should. This is a fully restored Bosendorfer we've also recently got into stock. Restored by somebody else, but well done, and we're working on it just to perfect it. This is a Bechstein Model C Grand made in 1913. So that's the Steinway Model A, made in 1924, a very fine instrument. I forgot to mention the weighting of the keys is obviously very, very light because the hammers are so worn. So really, we talked about changing hammers, shanks and rollers as the main work, and very definitely needs doing. Extremely warm sound, and the hammers will be warm throughout once they've been changed. Of course we need to do general regulation as well, quite a lot of work, but we're very grateful for getting this piano in and we really enjoy working on it. Thank you very much for listening. As I say, I'm trying to combine this video with one to just encourage you to assess your own piano. Obviously taking the action out is something you may feel insecure about, and I would say you've got to do that extremely cautiously on a grand piano, making sure the hammers are not don't touch them and they're not stuck up in any way. So it's really important that. But there are so many pianos that need restoration, and we've noticed there's a huge amount of work to be done. So please do write to us if you're interested in having your piano assessed. Have a go at it yourself. Just send us through the results and then we'll see if we can help you. Thank you very much for listening.